Hi, everyone. Thank you all so much for being here. My name is Carmen Askernes. I'm a professional game writer and game designer, and I'm going to speak to you a little bit today about how you can break into the industry. So, without further ado, let's get started. All right. So, a little bit about myself. I got a master's degree from the University of Central Florida. They have a game development program there called FIA. So during my time there, I was the project lead on a story-driven adventure game, which we made in Unreal 4. And I've also worked on several sports titles like Madden Mobile and NBA Live Mobile. And I was the narrative lead for a long shot prequel. And most recently, I was the lead designer and lead writer on The Simpsons Tapped Out. So, what are some ways that you, as an aspiring professional dev, could break into the industry? Um, a route that is becoming more and more common is doing higher education. So, there are several programs out there around the globe that allow students to learn from industry professionals. If you're interested in going to FIA, like where I went to graduate school, that program is really great. The professors there are able to teach you how to develop in a in the industry as it is now, and as it continues to evolve. You'll have a lot of opportunity to work on VR and AR projects as well, which is a great portfolio piece to have if you're able to do so. But there are other great schools out there besides FIA, and yeah, so if that's a route that you're interested in taking, I would recommend looking at the different curriculum and what you believe is the best way to sort of tailor your experience toward what your eventual goals are in the long term. So if you want to be a game writer, for instance, then maybe finding a way to level up your creative writing skills would be better than a program that centers around programming and engineering. Um, Other ways are creating games independently. So there are tons of creators out there who are looking to collaborate, and you can often find people at conventions, which have all moved into the online space now, which actually makes it a little easier to find folks to work with and finish a project. So making games, whether that's like a small flash game or like a small 2D game, um, or it's something that's more involved in 3D, just having those experiences of taking that initiative and making something on your own is going to be impressive to potential employers. Um, so whenever I'm looking to hire folks on my team, I'm always looking at what their role was on a particular project that they worked on. So if you are working with others, be sure to take note of the things that you're doing and contributing to the project and how you're moving the needle and helping the project evolve. Those are going to be the talking points that you want to have on your resume and eventually bring up in an interview. Um, Another way you can potentially break in is through competitions and internships. So there are several studios that have writing competitions as well as design competitions. Um, and a lot of studios are doing internships. So with these programs, you want to look at how you can potentially position yourself to be a strong applicant. So what I would suggest is find a company that you really enjoy their products, their games, and look at their careers page. If there are roles on their full-time roles that you're interested in eventually having, or if there are internships that you would like to have, what are the requirements for those things? And do you have those skills at the moment, or are there some things that you need to work your way up to get to? And you can sort of create a checklist for yourself based on what those applications are asking for. Um, Now, that's not to say that you shouldn't apply anyway if you feel like you have 60% or more of the job requirements they're asking for. I think a lot of the times job postings can be wish lists. So a company may be hoping to find someone who matches all of those qualities, but if you have the majority of those qualifications and or released games and experience, it doesn't hurt to apply anyway, because you never know. That could potentially be a future opportunity for you. Um, so I wanted to take a moment and speak a little bit more about the different ways that different disciplines can break in. So I briefly mentioned game writing, and if you're like immersed in the game dev Twitter at all, especially in the game writing space, you'll notice that a lot of folks have various different backgrounds. So there are a lot of game writers who also write comic books. There are some who come from television and film. And there are other folks who write prose or other types of books and then eventually break into game writing. So if you're a writer, I think the most important thing is to find a way to get your work out there. So if you have a literary agent and or you have the ability to self-publish your work, that's great. And I think that published work is always going to be really strong and powerful on a portfolio, and that can open doors for you. But not everyone has the ability to do that. So other sites like uh, uh, WordPress or there are a few other apps that their names are escaping me at the moment, but there are ways that you can put your work out there and start to build an audience for yourself and getting that feedback from other writers. I think that can be really valuable. There are great programs out there for learning how to write for different mediums as well. So one thing that's happening in the writing space is we're seeing a merger between the style of writing for television and game writing. And a lot of that is happening because there are folks who are sort of jumping between the different mediums. But I think that understanding how to write for multiple mediums and tell stories based on different mediums really gives you a breadth of knowledge that's going to help you in the long run. So if you're able to branch out and learn those extra skills, it's also a great networking opportunity. Your classmates and your peers are going to be your the first people that you network with, right? You'll all at some point probably end up working together, and you'll all probably end up helping one another advance your careers as you go along. So um, I would say definitely don't hesitate to reach out to folks that you've been on projects with in the past and see if they can collaborate in the future. And just to kind of see where everybody is so you can all help each other advance. So moving on from here, how do you build a portfolio? So a portfolio can be a bunch of different things depending on what your particular discipline is. So for artists and animators, ArtStation and uh, like portfolio day hashtags on Twitter are really good ways to get your work out there. And I think the same goes for engineers with GitHub, right? I think that the main thing you want to do is have your work be visible, and to find a way to make as much work and portfolio pieces as you can. And one of the ways you can potentially do that is with a game jam. So there are events like the Global Game Jam that you can potentially participate in, and there are a ton of great and talented developers that you can meet there, as well as the online communities that have been forming. So if you all are familiar with conventions like EGX or PAX or Gamescom, those are great ways to network with other game developers and find people who are interested in breaking in the industry as well. And you can all collaborate on a project. And not everything needs to be, The Witcher 3 or something really big and sprawling. Small game projects can go a long way as well. If you are in school in some way, I know that like some middle schools and high schools are now also doing game development tracks. So if you have projects from school that you're proud of the work that you did on them, those are great portfolio pieces to have as well. Showing that you can take something from ideation to fruition is going to be impressive, right? Hiring managers are looking for people who can showcase completed projects. It doesn't matter how cool your idea or your game is if it's unfinished, because that sends the wrong message and it says that you can't see something through. So it's better to have like small, tight, completed, polished projects than one or two really big unfinished projects. And I think that finding ways to form those groups and make those games can help you start to position yourself for success when you're looking to break in. Another thing is online training and tutorials. So I don't know about you all, but coming up, I was not a big fan of school, but learning about the entertainment industry and how you grow your career, the trick is really that you're an eternal student. Even now, as a working professional, I'm still always taking online training. I'm taking tutorials and classes. And as I've met other professionals in the industry, everyone from voice actors to performance capture actors to game developers to game directors, people are constantly taking new classes, new courses, because our industry changes, right? So you need to be aware of what new technology is out there, and also you want to continue to master your craft. So if you are a engineer, let's say, um, being familiar with multiple game engines and how to not only code things manually and hard code things, but also how do you working with visual tools like blueprints, being familiar with uh, navigating around a game engine. If you're an artist, being familiar with the pipeline of importing your assets from Maya into Unreal, and just understanding the workflow pipeline is going to be really helpful and beneficial to you. And those are all things that you can learn through online training courses and tutorials. A lot of people also suggest having mentors. So with mentors, I think that it's honestly, it's a bit different because you want to find someone who is invested in you, right? When you have a mentor. And so what I mean by that is I've always felt like a mentor is a relationship and not a job, right? So mentoring someone means that they are investing in helping you improve not only your skill set, but your soft skills to help you get to the next level. So I would say that if you have the opportunity to find mentors, just try to do your best to make sure it's a good fit. And the same with online training and tutorials, right? Like I think that there are a lot of great resources out there, but there are also some that are not so great. So you want to make sure that whatever you're doing, you're maximizing your time and you are getting the most and the largest impact out of whatever it is that you are studying or working on or with. Um, and there's some resources that are available to you all that I'll talk about a little bit later on. But I can't stress this enough, like building that portfolio of completed work and being able to showcase that you know how to work with others is hyper important. And one last thing before we move forward is, um, especially for designers and producers, um, but even more so for engineers and artists and writers, is your soft skills, right? And as the industry is evolving, something you're seeing more of is the search for applicants and developers with emotional intelligence. So what that is it's the ability to have empathy for others and also for the type of experience that you're making for your player, right? And so being able to empathize with your teammates and with the people that you're making the game for, your fan community is hyper important. So if you can find a way to learn about and practice empathy and to sharpen your soft skills, you are going to be ahead of the pack, let me tell you. All right, let's move on. So um, the next thing I want to talk about is, say you've made it, right? You have a job, you're in the industry. Awesome. Congratulations. But now what? So being in the industry, you may hear a lot of folks say, there's no such thing as getting promoted. Uh, this is a dead end. You'll be in this job forever. And I think that, depending on where you are, that may or may not be true, but it's important to have agency with your career. And being in the driver's seat of your own career is not only empowering for you, but it shows other folks in the industry and other people who could potentially give you opportunities that you aren't idle, that you aren't idling, waiting for someone to provide you with an opportunity. Like the train's moving whether or not they're on board. And I think that's really enticing for people. And there are companies that want to work with folks who have that type of drive. So what are some ways that you can showcase that driver, that you can get that drive? And as I mentioned before, PAX and EGX and Gamescom, these are not the only conventions, but I think that this is your convention starter pack. I'll say that. So attending conventions and understanding how you can get the most out of them is going to be super helpful in growing your career. So you may be thinking, Carmen, why isn't GDC on the list? And the reason is because I think GDC is a great networking tool. However, it's very hard to form new relationships at GDC, is what I found. And the reason being is because most of the time people coming to GDC, they are there to give a talk or to do a workshop or to see friends they haven't seen in a long time. And I think that going to these expos that are more fan focused really alleviate some of the pressure that you would have at an industry specific event like GDC. So going off of that, I think that while you're at a convention, go around to different booths and speak to the developers who are there. And at this point, you're already in the industry, so it's not like you're looking for a job. You're just meeting new people and, play their games, learn about their journeys, and take some business cards with you. I would say that, you never want to go around just handing out business cards, but when you meet people and you form a connection with someone, you want to keep in touch. It's always great to have a card handy so you can be like, oh, here's my contact information. I'd love to keep in touch. And at these conventions, there are always after parties and other things that you can attend to meet more people. If you're like me and you're like, I don't want to be going to after parties, that's too much, I'm not interested in all that nightclub life and all of that, then that's completely fine too. There's a little something for everybody, right? There are those types of really over the top after parties that you hear about, and there are things that are more relaxed, where it's just a chance for people to unwind after the convention and to chat. So I would say that, like, the conventions have a lot of really talented people who get together at them, and there's an opportunity to meet new friends at karaoke, or also just going to talks and get a chance to chat with the speakers after. So find a way to make the convention your own, and find a way to make meaningful connections while you're there. And that leads us to our next point of making meaningful connections. So what does that mean? That means that you are connecting with someone on a deeper level that's not transactional. So when I say transactional, what I mean is, like, for example, if I'm a student and I'm meeting somebody at a convention and they're a hiring manager, it's transactional. I'm a student, I need a job, you're a hiring manager, hopefully you have an opening, you're looking to hire somebody, I'm trying to convince you to hire me, right? A different type of connection is, there is a new game that just came out and I'm really excited about it. I get a chance to speak with the devs. I'm also a professional dev. Let's talk about our processes. Let's talk about your experience. Let me tell you what I loved about the game. And sharing those types of experiences with other folks can really form lasting bonds, that not only are great to have in terms of networking in your long-term career, but also it's an opportunity to make some new friends. I think the one thing that we all have in common is that we love games. And so you always have something to talk about, right? It's because everybody who's going to these events and that you're meeting, we all love games. So why don't you speak about that? And that's a good way to break the ice. Again, I put this on here again because it's so super important. Growing your career, taking classes and workshops. So there are some studios that actually offer internal training. So once you're on staff and you're at a studio, ask your manager or your team lead, what training opportunities are there? Are there opportunities for you to get cross-trained? So for example, if you're a writer and you're like, I've always been interested in game design, is there an opportunity for you to get cross-trained and potentially become a narrative designer where you can do writing and game design? And that works for artists and for engineers as well. So growing your skill set, continuing to master your craft, and understanding that you are never done being a student, you're never done learning and growing. And that's going to take you to the next level. It really is. So before I go, I want to leave you with some resources. So feel free to take a screenshot of this slide if you need to. So these are things that have helped me throughout my journey. And there are so many other great resources out there that you can find. If you are immersed or involved with game dev Twitter at all, you will be able to find developers who are recommending books and courses and game jams all the time. But some of the tutorial training sites that I use are plural sites. So it's a collection, a database of training videos that you can potentially watch. The same with Unity and Unreal. They have their own training academies on their websites. Udemy is like Pluralsight, except the courses are a little cheaper and you can find a wider variety of potential topics and teachers on Udemy. In terms of books, the ones that I actually started my career as a game designer and now I'm a game writer, and the design of everyday things really helped me sort of reorient how I thought about designing games and the power of simplicity. So I would highly recommend that book. For game writers, the Game Narrative Toolbox is an incredible tool, and it will give you all of the building blocks and pieces that you need to start launching your game narrative career. If you are looking for game jams to participate in, the Global Game Jam happens annually, and it is a great opportunity where everybody across the industry from across the globe come together and make something in a game jam. Just a way to show our love for this art form and for the industry. If you are curious about what other game jams are out there, itch.io has a upcoming game jam section on their site. So you can see what game jams are out there, if there are any in your area. There are so many. There are so many. You'll never be at a loss for if there are game jams. But thank you all so much for taking the time to chat with me. I hope that this was helpful, and I hope to see you someday around the industry. Thank you so much. Take care.